I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
I love to see my people party with me, man. Good to see you, Black Brown, Sweet Nikita, Miss Rhonda. Hey, happy birthday, Miss J. Hey, Rhea, Sweet Sharita. Party with me all night long. Say what? That's right, baby. Bring it to the front. Hey, Janine. Well, guess what? Hey, when I see you, yeah, I get a little happy. Hey, Black Brown, I get a little happy when I see you. What? Baby, when I see you, yeah, I get a little happy. Hey, Francine, I get a little happy when you party with me. Well, guess what? When I see you, yeah. Hey, Jay, hey, Randy, I get happy when you party with me. Guess what? When I see you, yeah, yeah. Hey, Cole, I get a little happy. Happy when I see you. What? When I see you, yeah, 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 yeah. Listen, fellas, I put your picture on my mirror. Start to blush when somebody says your name. And my stomach is a pain. See you walk in my direction, I go the other way. I start to stutter when I speak. Try to stand on my knees.
All right, what's up, everybody? Come on in, come on in.
What's happening to me? Anybody, can you tell me what it means? I lay my head on my pillow. He got me staring out the window. Wish on a star for a sign. That's the reason why. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, see you. Hey, Marlon, you sexy boy. Hey, oh no. When I see you.
Hey, bro.
Hey fellas, listen. I scribble X and O's on my notebook. Checking how my hair
Live.
nails look.
It's like we pre-recorded.
Nervous when you call. Say I'm not home. See your face. I hear my favorite song. Should I send an email at home? I wonder if
Win
you
the
know,
thumbnail.
or do you have a clue? Yeah. I lay my head on my pillow. He got me staring out the window. Was on a star for a sign. That's the reason why. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. See you. Yeah. Marlon, so sexy boy. Oh, no. When I see you. Listen. Something now is taking
Make sure you like,
over me.
share, subscribe on your way in.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna run out.
No worries,
Just
peace,
gonna
Poncho.
stand here and see.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
respect back at you.
Oh, no.
Please, welcome.
See you. Said you're so sexy, boy. Yeah. Oh, no.
When I see you.
When I see you. Hey, Fox, hold me down, listen. Well, guess what? When I see you, yeah, yeah. Hey, sweet Sanita, hey. Getting happy when you party with me. Hey, Janine, when I
Uncle
see
Bert.
you.
Thank you very much.
I get a little happy. Hey, Tony, I get a little happy when you party with me.
Yes. Definitely check yesterday's show if you missed it.
When I see you, yeah, I get a little happy.
Get your tickets for that one-man show.
Quick,
Quick.
Hey, Jay, when
All right, everybody, come on in. Please do like, share, subscribe, support the platform however you see fit. Put this in your socials, do all of the other things, and as I continue to ask, please do sign up even for free at the Patreon, just in case. Yeah, I'm seeing with the green screen, it's looking like I'm wearing a Belgian shirt, a Belgian kit, but nah, it's this is supposed to be green, but the green screen is kicking in, so it looks like I'm wearing a black pot or a Belgium shirt. All right, everybody. So just quickly before I bring my guest up this morning, been getting a number of emails and messages around live go-go shows. So at this point in my life, I don't know exactly how best to do it. The way I've been doing it is just through, and I don't mean to plug this platform, don't know what's behind the curtain, but Eventbrite, and it is where I go. There's Fonz Productions on YouTube, FONZ. There's a Facebook go-go community, but for the most part, I just go to Eventbrite, search go-go, my area, dates, and a lot of shows come up. Most of the grown folk shows pop up. Where the youngins are doing it, I don't know where the youngins at. Don't want to know. I'm not going. But yeah, so there's a lot of shows in these kinds of in the venues that you see, that in the video there, smaller, grown folks, great times. So that's just how I've been doing it, and a lot of them are outside of the city proper now. So if there's any benefit to gentrification, I get to see go-go out here near me, as they're forced farther out of the city proper. But in fact, if anybody, I'm not, maybe one or two spots in DC proper have go-go shows that I'm aware of anymore. So most of them are in the county, in Virginia, or the counties, I should say, and in Maryland and in Virginia. So, but please do, if you are in town. Somebody said they wanted to look into some shows while they were in Baltimore, and as my next guest can attest, only on the rarest of occasions will you see a go-go show in Baltimore. And the DMV does not include Baltimore, unfortunately. The DMV at this point may not even include DC. There's been a resistance to the erasure of Black DC, and I'm not mad at it, but as someone who has enjoyed the entire region and claims the entire region, I would like to see more unity between DC and Baltimore and all in between. Not Virginia so much. I'm good with Virginia. But you club, house, all good in Baltimore. Not too much go-go. So you got to get closer to DC, to Montgomery, and of course Prince George's County, a little bit even out here in Howard County, a little bit in DC, but for the most part, you're probably looking at Prince George's County, Maryland, for a bulk of those shows. So, okay. All right, everybody. So not unfamiliar to this platform, been around here before, and offers this space to me and many others as well. Dr. Dennis Ausar Winkler is going to join us now. TNAT, and to talk to us about Njia, the African way. So welcome, Dr. Daw, back to the platform. Good morning to you. Peace. How you feel?
Peace and power, Dr. Ball. Is a pleasure to be on this early in the morning. I'm going to give you back some of what you give me.
Yes.
This is my bedtime, Dr. Ball.
Yes.
Well, I'm just getting up. But anyway,
no, I appreciate it. No, I appreciate it, because them late nights over at your spot.
So yeah, I appreciate you coming over and always staying up late. So I'm on the other side. You know what I mean?
I got it.
So
and
yeah,
I appreciate
work
you.
with me.
So before we get started, please correct the unprofessional biography that I did not offer. Please tell us a little bit about who you are, and please also say, if you would, if you have any addition or response to my point about the DMV Go-Go Club, if you can help our audience clarify how this region works a little bit from your vantage point in Tubman City. Please do. But welcome. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I'm horrible at giving my own biography or just biography in general, because I'm you'll find today I'm pretty difficult to put in a box. And when you think you know me, you probably really didn't. When you think you caught me, you really don't know what, because I'm always evolving. So the thing is, it's hard to put me in a box. But I am the founder of Tina Holistic Wellness Center, which is a wellness center here in Baltimore that is trying to carry out and facilitate liberation from the individual to the collective social level. And what I mean, from the mind, body, spirit, material, all the things, you know what I'm saying? But literally, one of the things I learned from you, Dr. Ball, and you continue, as you continuously say, is this thing around distinguishing between let's say which is dang, I am tired. I'm starting off kind of tired already. But distinguish between survival programs and that what is pending liberation. So again, I say we do a little bit of both here. Definitely while we're in this struggle and pursuing liberation, African sovereignty, we will serve as both. Now I'm a professor, adjunct now. I used to be more full-time, but do a lot of community work. We have a lot of things going on. I just don't want to get into all of that, but getting to the whole thing around go-go and club music and all of that. So yeah, I grew up in Baltimore. I love Baltimore. I love DC too. You know, as you get older, you mature. You know,
that's because it is beef, man. Like it is like when you grow up, it is like you have to pick one, or you're from one or the other, or you have to pick one or the other. It's wild. But sorry, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, I spent many years in DC with some contracts, some works down there, installing people's satellite dishes. You know, I had a whole organization, a whole thing going on in DC, Southern Maryland, down there with the Savoys, the Proctors. I know the people down there. I know the whole people. You know, I know a little bit of the things down there, the culture and the folk tales and all the different things going down there. I'm from Baltimore, so it's all one for me. I used to say I live in DC and I sleep in Baltimore. So you know, as far as club music is a Baltimore thing, it's kind of like a dying thing. The only thing that's keeping it alive is the dancers. The dancers in Baltimore have exploded via TikTok. They've become known, and not just Baltimore club music. In some ways, have kind of traveled north, more northern, and DC club music. DC go-go kind of traveled more southernly, and from what I see. So I know my cousins in Richmond and all of them kind of get down with the go-go. They put a little club in every now and again, but then the club music has gone to Philadelphia. Well, first Jersey. They used to come down here, get the tapes and all that type of thing. Philadelphia, they think it's theirs, you know. But it's been they like kind of like you, like some of the synthesis of club music and let's say house music, which is a difference, and people often can't tell the difference. I can tell the difference many times, but not all the time, because some of the things I thought was club music actually is house music and actually is more of a Chicago type of thing. So you know, I don't know, maybe deep inside, deep down inside. Yeah, I don't know if that's. I think that might be more of a Chicago thing.
I don't know, and then Detroit is in there somewhere, so I don't want to get everybody upset. I don't want people. I don't want. Yeah,
you know, but you know, I think Lizzo's doing something. I don't know too much about it. Just saw her pop up talking about watch out for the big girls. Watch out for the big girl, big girl. You know, so. Club music to me is more fast paced, is more upbeat. It was for me in the 90s or the early 90s. I'm growing up in Baltimore. It was like V103 was on was doing the house music and kind of sticking to that. The 92Q came in and was like turning it up with Frank Ski and Miss Tony and all the different people. So it was a little
Miss
bit
Tony
more.
say how you want Kurt. Tony say how you want Kurt.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
No, yeah. No, thank you for that. And then as folks can, if they're not already familiar, they can check your YouTube channel, which is linked in the show description, and then they will see what is for me. I have to say my second favorite because I do like the intro that Skip put together for Earn Your Liberation. But like 1A, 1B is the intro to your show, which I do think is I genuinely think is off the hook. I love it every time I hear it. So I if for no other reason, never mind the content, people should check out your channel and get that Dr. Amos Wilson inspired intro, which is fire, and that club anyway. So but listen, so what obviously what got us started here was the exchange that began between you and Cherie a couple weeks ago. Cherie was able to join us and offer up her views of things, and I had a great discussion. And I invite people to check out that what I think is a really strong conversation. But obviously, not only am I cool with you, but also, more broadly speaking, I am one in some ways raised in African-centered thought, what is broadly considered African-centered thought, and politicized in that way, and introduced to Black studies through that lens, so to speak. And wanted to give you a chance to lay out, not just in a quote unquote response to Cherie, but just aside from all that, just lay out your approach to your worldview and your approach to study and politics, and then we can go from there. So I will turn it over to you and let you get us started.
No, I appreciate that. I don't, I just want to first start off by saying that I am not so committed to any framework. Let me just say that. I am not so committed to any framework, but I am committed to liberation for and of my people. So I am critical of all frameworks. And let me say that again, even the one that I will present to you today. I am critical. And guess what? Dr. Ball taught me to be even more critical. So I blame it on him. So nonetheless, and I will challenge him at times, because I really appreciate his critical lens, because it doesn't always feel, it's not an easy thing to do. But I promise you that I may get some things wrong. I promise you that I might get some things right. But I promise you it is an evolutionary process. It is a constant evolving in what I call Njia. So what I call Njia, I can do that, right, Doc? I can do that? All right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have a bit of a, somewhat of a presentation today. I mean, I might not get all the way through it. You know what I mean? But Njia is a framework that I've been working on for, I'm going to say, it's kind of like my life's work, and it's still being worked on. So let's think about it. It's more of a working theory. I'm actually going to be presenting on it next week at the Association of Black Psychologists here in Baltimore for their 57th, I think it's International Conventional Conference. So I have this title today, Njia, the Journey of Both and Toward an African-Centered, Pan-African-Oriented, philosophical, meta-theoretical, psychosocial, and counseling framework. So all of that, and we're still working. So you can imagine that this is a lot, and I'm working on it. I'm constantly working on it. And I'm working with others as well. I'm working with those in the National Association of Black Counselors. I'm working with you. Every engagement I have. Look, just yesterday I was listening to the dear brother, your big brother, Baba Ball, Dr. Ball. I'm taking from that. I'm taking from this particular engagement here today. I'm always observing what's going on, the phenomena. I'm always learning. So again, I cut no frameworks out, but I do critique them all. And I think once we get to a point where we can't critique frameworks, we got a problem, Houston. We got a problem. And again, what often happens is that people begin to believe that we can't distinguish between critiquing evidence or critiquing frameworks or ideologies or paradigms or frames, and we take it as we're critiquing people. And I'm not saying there's not people who don't utilize these frameworks, but in fact, people hold so dear to them that they can't distinguish between you coming for them or you actually critiquing the evidence. You actually critiquing the framework. You actually critiquing the model, the theory, the ideology. And I'm saying that is all I do. And that's what I do. And guess what? That's what I hear Dr. Ball doing all day too. This myth of black blind power has gotten me in so much trouble. It has gotten me in so much trouble. And as Dr. Clark says, people will not hear, people were, what did he say? He said, people will not hear what you said. Oh, I can't say it today. I'm a little too tired. I typically got it it rolls off my tongue. But people will not hear what you said and stubbornly refuse to hear what you did say. Something like that. Give me some grace. So Njia, why Njia? Why now? From what standpoint is this framework speaking? So there's some questions. So that's important to understand some things before we, understand before evaluating. So Njia, there's three. I don't know if I'm gonna get through all these slides. So I might talk about some things out of order, those type of things. So I might not get through it, but we're gonna let it do what it do. Just starting this conversation off. I'm not asking anyone to agree with Njia today. I'm asking that the framework be understood before it is evaluated. Every theory begins with assumptions about reality, humanity, knowledge, healing, and liberation. Njia makes those assumptions visible so that they can be examined rather than hidden beneath claims of neutrality. People like Dr. Amos Wilson often say that there are no neutral identities. There are no neutral ideologies. There's nothing that everything is to have some political aim. I'm saying from the smallest political aim, if that is to fix a pothole in the street, to liberation, to African sovereignty. There's some reason for it. So Njia's contribution, Njia begins by inviting disciplined engagement rather than instant agreement. A framework should be evaluated by what it assumes, what it illuminates, what it obscures, and what it produces. And that is part of the core of Njia. So Njia, again, is a living framework. It's moving, it's evolving. And I will look at the chat today. And the chat will even help it develop further. Anything that Dr. Ball puts in it and anything he has me to consider is going to become a part of for consideration of Njia. Njia is not presented as a closed doctrine or a final authority. It is an evolving African-centered framework through clinical practice, council education, research, community engagement, rigorous dialogue, and collective refinement. Every client, student, scholar, critique, and community conversation has potential to improve what Njia becomes. I must say that I'm a psychotherapist. I'm a counselor educator. I teach at Boyd State University and Waynesburg University at the moment. And I teach master's level and PhD counseling students. And I see a lot of issues. And a lot of the times when I'm coming from, just understand this is coming from my experience, my reality, my lens, my optic. And then not just there, but what I see in social media, what I experience different places, and just growing up and developing in these African-centered, these Pan-African spaces, I've seen division too much. And we sit on our sides and we become dedicated to frameworks. And there's nothing wrong, because to some degree, to a great degree, it is necessary that we stand strong on something, especially when we're talking about liberation, when we're talking about revolution, but not so much that we become counterproductive. And if there's any framework, and I can call them all out, African-centered frameworks, feminist frameworks, and you know, that's a big misunderstanding. Look, if you're in, look, we don't even have to practice frameworks. We don't even have to practice frameworks. We don't even have to consciously know where they come from. People say, well, that is academia. As if academia is this place on an island all by itself. We believe that, but the ideas that are produced in academia or produced in the community come into academia in reverse. It's a both end. Again, remember the Njia is a both end. It's not about this one way. It's about multiple paths. Njia, as Dr. Ball has it written, he says the African way. And I want to really inform you that when I say Njia, and you understand Njia as a Kiswahili term, that Njia is also plural. So I'm not suggesting one way. I'm suggesting ways that converge. I'm talking about the ways have to converge. And I'm suggesting that there is, because I see from my psychosocial therapeutic lens that there's a lot of trauma in our community. And I am pointing out the trauma. Now, I'm a therapist. So I don't act like this in the therapy room all the time. I utilize different, I might do this, but again, as a therapist, especially one who's trained in different models, we have to understand, as therapists, especially those who are trained in counseling, and especially those, like I was at Loyola. I'm going to say it's a phenomenal program. Now, that was hard for me to say some years ago because it's a white institution. I mean, really white. But the reality is, it really helped me flesh out theory, conceptualization. As a therapist, you have to utilize multiple. You don't have to. You can get stuck in one. But what we realize that one is never enough. We are trained in so many frameworks. And then one of my professors, Dr. Sharon Stanton, she talked, most therapists, not just, let me back up a bit. Most therapists use multiple frameworks, but they have no way to organize them many times. And they would just call it eclectic. So anyway, many times, so what it would end up is people just doing them. But we understand, whether it's political, whether it is clinical, that we need to utilize certain levels of theory, ideology, while critiquing them, to understand the phenomena we find ourselves in. Because it allows us to get out the way. I'm not saying you're not still there, but what I am saying is that one theory, one framework, one model, I posit from a very African-centered perspective, and I know a lot of African-centered brothers and sisters will disagree with me. But what I'm saying is, it's very common to hear this idea about being a both and perspective. See, the difference, but the thing I hear about us in our African-centered spaces many times is that we'll say both and until. We'll say one love until you start asking some critical questions. Does that mean everybody? Like, I mean, I'm sitting around the room and nobody wants to address the elephant in the room. Dr. Ball, you look like you had something with that one. No? So does that mean everybody? And I posit, something just came up for me. Because I was listening to the conversation the other day, and I'm just going to be real honest with you. We have to, this is just my argument, you can disagree, but we have to really see the other side of everybody's harm, of everybody's trauma, of everybody's experience. We have to see it. I don't care if Dr. Ball and he makes light of it, that he's light-skinned or what have you. We all on this shade, on this tree. I mean, on this shade, this spectrum. It's still too early. Still too early. I don't know. On this tree, I don't know how to make that one work, but maybe I can. But we all on this spectrum, and then we begin to think we see things in very nuanced ways. I'm going to use Dr. Ball since he's here, and they brought that up. I love my dear sister Sherry. I appreciate it, and I appreciate her doing the work. I appreciate her continuously wrestling with the womanism, the Africanism, the black womanism, the bombada. I forgot. I can't think of the term. I appreciate her doing
Bombarism.
Thank you. I couldn't even say it right now. I'm a little too bombarism, I think you said. I appreciate it because that is my point. That is my goal. It is to influence us in ways to push further, to critique, to analyze all of them and understand. And I'm challenging. I do say that one will never work. One framework, one ideological. I mean, we can converge with frameworks and create some form of ideology. What I'm saying is to conceptualize phenomena, one is never enough. But getting back to the spectrum that I'm going to utilize Dr. Ball as a case study. It might not be his experience. Let me not use him as a case study. And I don't want to be taken out of context of saying this is anecdotal. This is clinical, which is different than anecdotal, but because you see the patterns and there's other people talking about it. And you see the consistency going on. But if you ever saw a person, whether or not you want to call them mixed, whether or not they just light-skinned and they both their parents, quote unquote, are black, whatever, all the different social constructs, right? It's hard for us to see the pain of those who might be lighter. It's hard, but I've experienced the pain that they experience. When I mean I witness it. I witnessed the confusion. I don't feel like I belong. I witnessed the idea that they think I got this privilege and I don't even see that I got it. I don't feel like I got it. I've witnessed it. Our frameworks are too simple and we get locked in them. That's why I challenge intersectionality. I'm not saying there's no utilization of intersectionality. I'm saying yes, but you got to bring it back together. You can compartmentalize, but we get so caught in cutting and dicing that we separate ourselves too far. I'm talking about all people that utilize frameworks in these very dogmatic ways. So we can't see the pain. We can't even give the person the space to say, you know what, you hurt too. No, what we say is you can't hurt like me. I got more hurt than you. But not realizing that human beings are being hurt in different ways. I'll give you an example. The light-skinned child is favorite. It happens the other way sometimes too. But see, the thing is, when we look at this thing from this racialized lens, we will see that the darker children of the family sometimes they hurt. I'm not gonna say all the times. I'm just saying let's utilize a case, just a little example, just to kind of extrapolate what I'm really trying to say here. They were hurt, especially in certain environments. Let's say the grandmother favored the light-skinned child. Then the dark-skinned children start to feel some kind of way. And then they start taking it out on the light-skinned child. I can't discount that hurt and pain that none of them experience. I won't do that because I understand that none of them feel like nobody can understand them. And when you are the lighter child, you got to shut up. When you're the man, you got to shut up. When you are the woman in certain cases, you got to shut up. When you are even the white man, he got to shut up. Now, I ain't really that concerned about the white man per se. But I do understand that also there's individuals within that community, as Dr. Amos Wilson talks about, that can be your comrades. That can be, let me just stick with the term comrade. But some of us are so committed to our frameworks that they blind us. And we see white supremacy, or whatever you want to call it, white supremacy ideology will have you so, you see, we can't separate the ideology from the person. And whenever, for the most part, 99% of the time, I am talking about frameworks, conceptualizations, ideologies, not the people. Now, the people as a collective, the people who look through those lenses, these limited lenses, I'm arguing that we have to be able to use multiple lenses and give each other space to be incorrect. Let me be wrong. Let me be wrong today. That's fine. Let me be wrong. And I'm okay with being wrong because you might help me get closer to being more accurate. But I won't go out without a fight. I promise you. Just an intellectual fight. All in love. I do it for my people. So again, I want to start the presentation out. I told you I might not make it through this thing. Njia does not emerge from an intellectual vacuum. Before a personal standpoint comes ancestral, communal, and scholarly inheritance. Living libation names the practice of honoring the traditions, the thinkers, the communities, and the struggles that shape what this framework can become. This is not symbolic courtesy. It is an affirmation that knowledge is carried, received, refined, and passed on. Njia contribution. Njia honors lineage before self-location, personal grounding matters, but it is preceded by traditions and communities that made thought possible. That's more of an African-centered way of being. It doesn't exclude you, though. Sometimes people hear that and they say, there's exclusion. Lineage honored may include African-centered scholarship in historiography, pan-African decolonial and liberatory traditions, communal and pedagogical practice, ancestors, elders, teachers, community memory. The essential question is, can we recognize the framework through which we are thinking? Every person speaks from a framework, even when they believe they are simply speaking common sense. Frameworks shape research, practice, politics, identity, ethics, and definitions. Bobby Wright reminds us that definitions are never innocent. What we call people and problems shape what we can see and what we refuse to examine. Marimba Ani helps clarity that worldview organizes perception before conclusions are drawn. Alberto Guerrero Ramos, he says, concepts must answer to the lived realities of people, not merely imported categories. Bobby E. Wright, definitions and labels shape analysis. Marimba Ani worldview organizes what a people take to be real. Njia, identity, the lens before trusting the conclusion. Alberto Ramos was an Afro-Brazilian sociologist and critical thinker. I just want to give him some love in my ancestral libations, who challenged the uncritical importation of foreign categories. His idea of sociological reduction insists that theory must be grounded in the concrete realities of the people rather than treated as universally transferable abstraction. Scholarship. I can't never say this word, so I just say scholarship on critical consciousness links Guerrero Ramos to the genealogy that also shapes Paulo Freire. He helps clarify why framework, reality, and liberation belong together. So he and others before Freire popularized this idea of critical consciousness. This Black man and other Black people, but other indigenous people. And I'm not saying that it had to be one. I just want to give his brother some ancestral libation. So why are other frameworks needed? Njia emerged from years of observing that existing theories often explain part of the human experience, while leaving other parts underdeveloped. Some theories explain individual functioning, but neglect family and community. Others name structural oppression, but neglect meaning making and relational healing. Some affirm identity while leaving questions of the collective responsibility unresolved. I suggest, I maintain that we must wrestle with all of these things. Njia seeks to organize what is often fragmented. And when I say Njia seeks to organize what is often fragmented, I think it's important to understand that when I look at this, I'm looking at it from a trauma-informed lens. I'm not saying a Eurocentric trauma-informed lens. I'm saying when I look at how trauma works on the individual level, and then how that compounds on a collective level, it shows up in our work. And that is what I'm essentially pointing out. That trauma fragments. I think that a lot of times, again, we underestimate the scholarship of people. No, not most of us will not question the Fanon, but we will question the entire works of a person like Asante many times. I have critiques myself, but he has, in the simplicity that he articulates things, is some very powerful ideas. And one of the ideas is this consciousness of oppression and this consciousness of victory. But he says that most of us are, many of us, he says, what becomes the primary consciousness of many of us is this consciousness of oppression. But we often leave out this victory, the resistance, the fight, the ability to fight and to continue to fight. See, and why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because he's not a...
You talking about Molefi Asante? Is that who you're talking about?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
He brings up this idea. He talks about we have these fragmented realities. And for someone who studies psychology and trauma and all that, that language speaks very similar on an individual level. See, Dr. Santis presented what he called a social theory. And so on a social level, he's identifying how fragmented even our thoughts are collectively. But even on an individual level, one who have experienced trauma their thoughts are fragmented. Their memories are fragmented. The way that they see the world is fragmented. The way that they experience others is through these fragmented lenses. Hence, it keeps them at these hyper states of arousal, these hyper states, hyper alert, hyper aroused, hyper vigilant, which creates a type of reality that keeps them in a constant them against us. In fact, it's not that there's never them against us. It begins to miscalculate who is truly the threat. It miscalculates what is a threat from what is not necessarily a threat. It's a very sensitive, hypersensitive nervous system. And as Black people in America, we all, or I'm just saying all in the general sense, struggle with that in a variety of ways.
But let me ask, all right, but this is one of the issues that I let me just ask it this way. So what does Molefi Asante's approach to Afrocentricity and now Africology and so on, and others have termed it African-centered and have their own issues with him. And as someone who studied John Henrik Clarke, I know that there's all kinds of beefs within these communities. But my one question for now would be what in the broad African-centered or Afrocentric Njia approach deals with some of the contradictions you raised from within those approaches? So for instance, within African-centered approaches in Afrocentricity, there is at times an inability to see beyond the how I would describe it, the confrontation with Eurocentric thought, and as opposed to colonialism, imperialism. And then what ends up happening is that what you're describing occurs in other frameworks, occurs within this framework. And that, so the hostilities become focused on African people's inability to be African-centered, however that's defining what it is to be African-centered, or in the specifics of some of the discussions we've been having here recently, from within the African-centered world, the hostility moves away from imperialists, colonization, Europeans, to the Eurocentric, as they're defined, attitudes, behaviors, and practices among African people, specifically saying that those who practice, who are in the LGBTQ plus communities, are not practicing African-centered cultures and are themselves the problem, and the focus becomes them, or it'll become a focus on women saying that there is a problem with how men treat women, even within all Black African spaces. So I've seen this happen a lot, and I guess to bring it back to a question: what in these approaches, or in Njia, it specifically addresses or allows for a critique of the limitations or the practices of these frameworks within these frameworks, if that's making sense?
Well, Njia per se was actually speaking against, well, it's probably further in the presentation, but as I started out earlier, I also spoke about it was quite a bit there, but it doesn't just exclude any type of idea for the sake of it being a European person created it, or it came out of Europeans' mouth. I even argue whether or not Europeans was the first people to think of some of the things that people give them credit to think of. But as it pertains to these differences of identity, I think that one, it's important to note that you're always going to have people that are more extreme in their ideas and how they conceptualize things. Then you're going to have others that are not. But it's also essential to note that I would argue, for example, I like to use something a little less triggering. But what happens is that people in general will have their thoughts, their ideas, like of me. Like right now, people will have their ideas of me. I haven't looked at the chat much, but I saw a little bit and it didn't look so good. But again, it's okay for me to be misunderstood. It's about one, the individual one, understanding that everybody will not accept them, but two, not overcorrect with that, and vice versa. So there are African-centered frameworks that aren't doing those things that you articulated, but there are definitely African-centered frameworks that do that. And so I also, from a multicultural lens, like whatever that is worth, I think that we have to know that people are always going to disagree, but I think acceptance is one of the goals, even if you don't approve, because people might not approve of everything I say, but hopefully they can accept me. Just because, they don't have to approve of it.
So, but well, one, I'm staying out of the chat, but but what I guess what I'm asking is, what within the framework allows for or encourages that sort of self-critique? Because what I think ends up happening, and certainly from the perspective, so again, I just want to restate one of my biggest issues. One is that I think that to the extent that there are these two camps, neither reads extensively enough in their own camps, and neither reads at all in the other, and very little, I think it's so there's that. When there does seem to be some exchange, and in some of this, I am thinking of my own personal experiences, it descends into hostility and an attempt to win a public argument as opposed to arrive at some clarity and even at times some self-correction.
That's what I'm saying, though, right there.
But what I'm asking, so from the perspective of the African-centered world, where is in these frameworks, is there the encouragement to self-correct or critique?
Well, if I got through it, and I probably won't today, but I started out actually saying that Njia is critical of African-centered frameworks as well. It's not excluding African-centered frameworks. In fact, I challenged them to live up to their own tenets. Some will define it as those tenets. Yeah.
That, for instance, again, that definitions of manhood, womanhood, sexual roles, etc., are defined they have a certain definition, and outside of those definitions are not African or African-centered, or are imposed through other forms of either imperial abuse.
No, you have some of that, but you have difference of opinion in that as well. So I'm talking about within African-centered frameworks. So I'm not. That's, to me, that would be just looking at one aspect, and people are always going to have differences. That's what I want to continue to say. People will always have differences in what they accept, what they approve of, and how they see phenomenon. What I'm arguing is that we can disagree with one thing, but we don't have to throw the whole thing out.
So, but like specifically, even more specifically, so like some of the tension that arose was over the from my vantage point, confusion around how are terms like feminism, radical feminism, revolutionary feminism defined. And part of the argument has been that the attempt to throw out appropriately, I would argue, white liberal feminist involvement or imposition then
Who did that?
No, I'm not saying I'm not saying anyone specifically has done that. I'm saying that this does occur, that this was part of the tension,
Right.
even in the discussion between you and Cherie. That
wasn't the tension between me and Cherie.
It absolutely was, as it was playing out.
I'm talking about from my side.
But this is what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
It was interpreted by, it can be interpreted. I'm not trying to make it personal, keep it just to the two of you. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to be as vague as possible, and because it is beyond the two of you. From the materialist point of view, many people, it at times seems that the African-centered world is saying white liberal feminism is bad, as is appropriately, and therefore anyone attached to the label of feminism, even if it's black, radical, revolutionary, etc., is somehow involving themselves in some Eurocentric liberal approach. And then as others were trying to isolate, there are various approaches to this. So there is a radical, revolutionary, black-led approach to feminism versus the other form. So what I'm hearing you, and I've experienced this as well, attempting to say, is that within African-centered, broadly speaking, frameworks, there are variations, and some would skew to, as I would define them, more revolutionary forms, and as I would define them, conservative forms. Does that make?
Like I said, they're on the spectrum. A lot of identities are on the spectrum. Most of them are on some form of a spectrum. Yes.
Okay, so in terms of Njia, is there a way that Njia encourages clarity around where one is on that spectrum?
It does. Basically, Njia encourages that we examine what is liberatory, right? And we examine and we understand that we accept people in their diverse ways of showing up. Now, it also suggests that, as I started off earlier speaking to, is that sometimes when we're having a critical analysis, it often will seem like someone is saying something different than how it landed on people. And I understand that too from a psychological level. And so I think that we have to, so Njia also speaks about self, like healing, ourselves, really dealing with being able to have that dialogical process a bit. Because when we're having conversations, sometimes our theories, and I'm arguing and I maintain that they have us look for certain bits of information, and lots of times we misconstrue it. That's kind of the trauma that I'm speaking to a degree. I'm talking about collectively. I'm not talking about individually. I'm talking about we experience these things as people, and we try our best to understand this phenomenon. And I'm arguing that these lenses. Now, for me personally, I never get to radical feminism. I'm speaking about intersectionality mostly, and also, or just feminist, black feminist, whatever, right? And I'm not even talking about radical feminism, but I do think there is something to analyze whether or not certain words. I think all this stuff is fair to discuss.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not aware of anyone encouraging or discouraging discussing that. I'm saying that there's, it's what I've seen is just again the lack of clarity around the differences in just even within Black women who approach feminism.
Yeah, it's
or any variety of feminism. There are variations there.
Well, let me give you an example. I'm sorry.
No, well, just that I feel like the forms of approach to gender and sexuality that skew towards the most revolutionary, as I would understand them, are often those not addressed by critics of feminism in the African-centered community, to the extent that I'm aware. And I'm not, which is one of the questions I want to ask you about, is where is the latest scholarship on some of this? Because again, because all right, but go ahead. Yeah.
Well, basically, I have a friend. I really kind of try to talk from the framework per se, or frameworks. And I can't promise that I'm gonna be up to date on all. That's not like my area. Like, that's just a conversation that comes up, but we can talk about
let's
that.
just stick with Njia. Just the
but
Njia framework.
But if I can, just give you an example of what I'm talking about. Like, lots of times is misunderstood when in a lot of these spaces, including leftist and African-centered pan-Africanist spaces, we talk about Black Lives Matter, and it's not too often. Sometimes you will find that people are really critical of Black Lives Matter. Pretty much across the spectrum, I have heard a few who are not, but then you have, I think, Black Lives Matter grassroots to say, hold up now, what about us? Now, when people are typically talking about Black Lives Matter, they're not talking about Black Lives Matter grassroots. They don't probably even know that it exists. So sometimes they will take, maybe, I don't know, I'm just saying this is a possibility, take that when people say Black Lives Matter, that they're talking about them, but we're talking about, people are typically talking about what they find generally.
Yeah, but those who would be critical of Black Lives Matter from the perspective of gender and sexuality would have that same critique of Black Lives Matter grassroots, and that's what I'm saying is part of the problem here. And so if, I mean, just that. Yeah.
Well, I think that, look, so the thing is, I think that it's gender and sexuality. There needs to be a more open conversation about that on all sides, because even the literature and some of the theory that is being used on all sides is just, it's that's why I'm talking about Njia. It's part of the problem. I'm talking about on all sides. I'm talking about on the that's how I started off, from the African-centered side to the more quote unquote radical or leftist or what have you type of spaces. They all need to be examined, all of them. I'm not saying it's a this or that. I'm saying it's a both and. It's a both and. I'm not choosing one or the other. I'm saying that radical leftist, and even liberal, you can find some things that are really accurate and that we can utilize. That's what I'm saying. You can find somebody you totally disagree with, and you can find something that is beneficial that we can utilize. I'm saying Njia is not that closed-minded to be afraid of anything from any of these type of groups, even if they're white.
So let me ask. Let me blend some of the questions one of the questions that I definitely wanted to ask about the scholarship. So how does Njia define, for lack of a better term, gender and sexual roles as it relates to African liberation? Because one of the problems that I've had over just, I don't know, maybe the last 10 years or so in belatedly looking into some of the literature beyond the sort of core appreciated African-centered texts, is that a lot of folks are not reading beyond those core texts to incorporate research about pre-colonial Africa and the variety of ways people engaged gender, sexual roles, definitions, etc. And so how does Njia I guess define, or as a framework, address or reconcile? Yeah, go ahead.
Njia understand that there's truths on all the sides, and what it typically sees is that there's overcorrection going on all these sides. I'm being real honest. Like, even, I mean, I said, like, I'm not. There's overcorrection everywhere. Those who the extreme this way that says this is what happened in Africa, to those who say that never happened in Africa. There is a overcorrection going on across the board. Now there's people in the center, But I'm saying the ones that we find issue with are the extremes. So,
like, what is? Could you? So this is again. This is just like, what are the? Because from what I'm seemingly becoming pretty clear on, there is only, if we're using that word extreme, the extreme is in pre-colonial Africa is trending towards everything was going on.
No. So what I'm saying,
a lot of what we define today as so-called nuclear families and roles for men and women and definitions of men and women did not exist in pre-colonial Africa, and are, in fact, they are what are imposed through European imperialism. So
this is what I'll say.
Yeah,
this is what I'll say. The things that you will find things in Africa, that's never going to be my debate. That I'll never argue that you can't find gender fluidity, that you will not find different sexual orientation. I would never argue that. But what I'll argue is that what we tend to do is look at it through, and I'm saying whether we're conscious of it or not, through liberal lenses many times. And we typically, and I'm saying, as Dr. Cleo Monago speaks about, is this. He's very critical of not individuals in the LGBTQ plus community, but what he continues like a part of the trans, the lens that we look at, the way that we superimpose our anachronistically our world views from the movements we find ourselves in on Africa. And I'll give you an example. I'm never going again. I never argued that sexual orientation wasn't varied. I never argued that gender wasn't different.
I'm not saying you did. I'm asking you how Njia addresses. That's what I was asking. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying you did. I'm going through it for the audience. So what I'm saying is basically, so basically, let me start back over. So I would never argue that there wasn't a variety of ways of people experience the world, gender or sexually. But the argument is, I lost my point, but the argument is that
how we address ourselves to it is through a liberal lens, is what
the
you were
way
saying.
that we interpret it, even liberal, whatever other lens that we're utilizing, even if it's an African-centered lens, whatever lens, we need to really deal with that in a more, and let's say you're right. Let's say you're right. Not talking about you, Dr. Ball. I don't want you. Let's say you're right. I'm talking about either direction, even extreme. Now what? What do we do with that? Again, part of Njia also says that we have to accept ourselves where we are, even if that didn't. Let's say on the side that there was no gender nuance, although that's not true. At the end of the day, I don't think we have to go back and look historically for how we move as a people today. I don't think we have to. I don't think we have to emulate what happened in Africa. I think we can learn from Africa. Either way, I'm saying either way. I have no dog on either side. But what I'm saying is let's say there was no gender fluidity. There was no gender nuance or what have you. Okay, what does that do for us today? What I'm saying is we have to accept what's going on today and find out what's the best way to move forward in a liberatory sense.
Agreed. Is that a pause? Are you hesitating?
No. That was the answer. No, I mean, and this is the first time I'm really speaking on Njia because I'm still working it out. Other than just presenting it, right? So it's not like I have these things, but yeah, it's about our liberation. And whatever holds us up, and I promise you that to act like it didn't exist is a problem. Now, how it was dealt with culturally is something I think we also have to look at. And when I say how the expression of it, I don't think it's the same as the way that we look at it today. Now, can we learn from that? Do we have to emulate that? So what I'm saying is,
So
these are
that's exactly
Yeah.
exactly where I was trying to go with
Mhm.
even my question about how does Njia address itself to this, because
Mhm.
I'm with you in the sense that when I think that I'm now convinced between just the science and then the literature, just the evolutionary biological science of humanity, and then separately some of the literature that I think is outside the core canon of African-centered thinking about pre-colonial Africa. Uh, so even when I'm saying that I'm pretty much convinced any and everything is going on or what's going on and everything is just as part of the natural world as it just is. I'm not saying that just because I now am convinced of that in and of itself solves all of the problems today and questions that I have today about how we free ourselves. So I'm very much with you on this question of as I'm simplifying it, now what? Um, and so another aspect of the struggle between these camps that I've found myself struggling with is the now what. So from the starting with the Njia framework,
Mhm.
how does that now what look?
So
Yeah.
Njia is somewhat like, it responds somewhat like you respond to what is it going to take to get the revolution. And let me back up real quick before I even go there. I want to say one of the core things of Njia, concepts of Njia, it really looks at this nature versus nurture debate. And it doesn't see like it's very difficult to tease out nature and nurture in many ways. That is an argument. I'm saying that most people would say both and both, right? I'm saying like most scientists, most scholars would talk about a both lens, and I'm talking about just in general, not just sexuality. I am arguing that we are wired, like we have to understand how we are wired. We have to understand personality. We have to understand just our own engagement. Me and your engagement here, you are wired away and I'm wired away. So our wiring kind of engages with one another. And sometimes in our own wiring, we actually trigger one another. I'm not saying I'm triggered by you or vice versa. I'm just saying in general, these are things we really have to talk about in sexuality and other things. It has to do with nature and nurture, our wiring. I'm not denying any of that. It has to do with all of it. I'm talking about everything. It is almost impossible to parse out that which is social from biological.
I don't know about that. When it comes to sexuality and gender,
Mm-hmm.
the more, and admittedly, this is for me all through YouTube. So I want to be very clear. I'm not doing any of the real research or studying. I'm not, but I am also arguing a lot of that is also not occurring in a lot of these debate spaces. People are just not being honest about this. But it seems pretty clear that the scientific community around the world has concluded that I don't know what percentage to put on it, but that there is no gender and sexuality without the biological component.
Well,
That
that's absolutely true.
Even down to but what was most shocking for me, beyond just the chromosomes and the are you a boy or a girl type thing, but even down to how you react. So just using me as an example, even down to how Jared Ball reacts to being said he is biologically a male, and then what that means as a man, even how I respond to that is increasingly understood to have a biological component. So this
Absolutely.
whole point, so this about the whole cis and gendered reaction is as much biological, if not entirely biological. And what does happen at times, that how we understand cis het gendered identity and behavior is biological.
You saying totally biological?
I don't know exactly what percentage to put on it, but I am saying that it is pretty clear that there is none of that without the biological. So to argue to even, I would think at this point, to even emphasize the social component is missing everything and falling into a confusion around liberal radical politics as they relate to sex and gender roles, and also how we understand what it means to be African and pre-colonial African.
Well, that offers up confusion. But what I mean by that is that it's absolutely both. It's absolutely both. It's an intertwining of both social. I mean, because think about it. I'm talking about even like if I would say go do some research it. Because and you know, from journals and not
medical
YouTube.
journals.
Yes.
Okay.
There is no way to kind of, now what you're saying is accurate. Let me just be clear. There is biological component to all of it, but it's not only biological.
I didn't say only. I just said you can't get there. And to emphasize the social in this regard is to be, I think, a mistake.
Because for
that's
some
where we
reason,
fall into these politics.
I said biological, and I said both and, because it is both and. You can go and look. We can go research it. I mean, go research, Google it. I mean, it's simple.
Well, I have. That's what I'm. That's well, that part is what led me to all of this. But when you watch and by YouTube, I mean I'm watching medical doctors talk about the scholarship. I'm not watching YouTubers talk about.
I don't think we're saying anything different, honestly.
Okay, I just want to be clear about what I'm saying about the version of YouTube I'm addressing.
And being cautious. I think that's what I'm hearing from you. You want to be cautious that we don't throw out the biological reality.
Well, I'll just be very clear. What I want to avoid, and I find a problem with, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but I just want to be clear what I'm talking to. I'm talking to the crowd that says homosexuality is European, Eurocentric, and imposed through slavery and colonialism, and that people who don't identify with their assigned role are somehow socially constructed and wouldn't have existed in pre-colonial Africa. And by what I'm saying by that is that, so where I do accept the social construct part is how it's socially constructed that a society will respond to these very biological realities. And what I'm saying is that and this is where I think the politics come into it, because the conservative, and what, again, similar to my arguments around buying power, et cetera, a lot of what is wrapped in Black and African-centered radicalism is really cloaking a closeted, pun intended, conservative white nationalist Eurocentric view of humanity and family. So that's why I was asking you about Njia and where is the scholarship on that. But go ahead.
And I appreciate that. And I think sometimes when I'm talking, I think that it triggers that type of response in people. Not necessarily you, but not excluding you. And I'm not saying any of it. I'm saying biological.
You could say it triggers because maybe that's because you sound like it in those moments.
Well,
and that, so I don't know.
I think some conversations are just uncomfortable because if you listen to me, I would never say none of that. And I actually start off with both, and it's very consistent. It's both biological and social. There's no disconnection from it. There's even if you think about what's the brother Sapolsky, what's his name? Sapolsky, the white guy with the beard over at what's his name? He has a whole book on free will not being a real thing.
Oh, I have no idea.
He's a professor at Stanford. So these are debates that are being debated and continuously debated.
Although I'd agree, free will is not real.
Yeah, that even free will is not a thing.
Not.
So when you think about it, okay. So when you think about that, that's saying it's biological, although you are interacting with the environment. You know what I'm trying to say? It might manifest in different ways because the environment, or might show up or evolve to, manifest or present in ways. But the reality is it's a both and. Now, that's not what, now I've said that throughout this conversation. Now, that's not what a lot of my counterparts would say. That's what you're talking about. That they would never say it's a both and. They would say it's absolutely, a lot of my counterparts, not all of them, would say it's absolutely not biological and is imposed by white supremacy. Now, I've never, ever got even close to that. But I do.
That's why, yeah. I didn't say you did. That's why I was saying that's why I clearly wanted to lay out what argument I was speaking against. Yeah.
But I will clearly say it is, I don't think it will be settled, just to be real honest with you. Like, lots of science is not settled. But there is absolutely evidence for the biological component, just like biology interacts with everything.
But even the differently socially constructed approaches is also what I'm talking about in terms of pre-colonial Africa, that I think a lot in the core canonical approaches to African-centered worldviews that I have myself studied ignore or have not been caught up on. So
that's true.
So that's what I'm saying, that well, at least the two things I'm saying here are that in terms of preference and biology and whatever, everything was going on, has always been going on. Not even, by the way, in human beings, like other animals and other living beings, and do a lot of the same things that we're talking about in terms of humanity. The socially constructed definition of those has been different over time, and this is where the second point I'm getting to is that where our Venn diagrams do overlap again, where the liberal to conservative approaches, that is the whole spectrum that is to the right of revolutionary approaches, including liberals and conservatives, I think are encouraged to have one or another issue be elevated to supersede the collective liberation of a community, a society, a world. In the same way that Karl Rove, I used to quote all the time, reference all the time, famously described as Bush's brain, openly admitted the Republican strategy was to only discuss abortion, homosexuality, the assault on Christmas, as a way of convincing a bulk of this country to vote for Republicans. I do think there's a liberal version of that, to say we want to overemphasize the freedom and equality of the LGBTQ community or another set of oppressed communities and nationalities, so that we don't address ourselves to the actual liberation of Black and other communities and society as a whole. I do think that occurs, and that is something that I would, and this is why I am triggered by the what seems at times to be the all-encompassing attack on, as we were talking earlier, feminism, as opposed to identifying how are Black radical women and others engaging what this or what is called feminism, or a concern for the maltreatment of women in the community. So yeah, anyway, that's
I think I hear other versions of that argument even in these manosphere camps, and I do agree that I do agree that there are aspects of feminism, and again I will go back even down to the word, that's something we can talk about. You know what I mean? Like, I do think this is as you say, something that we do within struggle, that is something that we sit down and have some consensus about, that we really deal with these hard realities that we are experiencing. Just generally from an Njia standpoint, I don't really find that we can really tease out anything to call things unnatural. I just don't like I think from a very, even like human beings are part of nature. Our sexual, let's say some of their theories are correct. Let's say that their theory is correct. Let's say some of their theories are correct on any side. We will respond to our experiences. Our biology responds to our experiences. An example, some of us there's something called a diathesis stress model. And a diathesis stress model says that certain things are more likely to present under certain conditions, but it's your biology engaging with your experiences. Hence, someone with bipolar disorder or someone who bipolar, we all have the propensity to develop what is called bipolar disorder, but to varying degrees depending on our biological makeup. I am saying that biology with environment absolutely is involved in all these things. I'm saying I'm saying sexual orientation, whatever it is, gender, the way that you identify gender-wise, it all has to do with biology and experience. I'm not separating any of it. You can't prove to me that there's no biological component. I'm not talking to you, Dr. Ball. I just want to be clear. I'm just talking in general. That is not both biological and also through nurture. It's very different. I mean, it's a debate that we will never ever disprove. I don't think you.
The part that bothers my students the most, though, is
that?
when I'll ask them to consider the way I have. To what extent is my straight heterosexual preference equally socially constructed?
That's true.
And that's the part. So because it's easy for people, it's easier for the cis straight community to consider the social construction
Absolutely.
of the so-called other.
Yeah.
But you know, to say, you know, well, what if my preference, such as they are today, equally socially constructed for whatever purposes? You could say it's about evolution. You could say it's about whatever. But you know, but then I go back to what Charles, and then I'll stop here because I always think this is funny, because I go back to the very African-centered Charles Finch, where I learned through his medical scientific work as well, that for I don't know however many millennia, but initially humans didn't know that men had anything to do with the reproductive process. And that's why you have in ancient Egypt the dung beetle, for instance, and other self-reproducing entities and animals being represented as and being given such a being deified, because they were like, damn, out of nowhere, these animals and women among us just get big and have babies out of nothing, and I haven't studied this at all, but I would like to at some point, because I do wonder, to what extent was that the moment that all of the gender and sexuality wars began, the moment men realized we did have something to do with the reproductive process. Because anyway,
I mean, I think without causation, right? I mean, when you look at just even like, let's say people who are considered more neurodivergent, maybe autism spectrum or what have you, there's just the neurological component to that way of being, right? I don't call it a disorder, but that diverse way of being, right? When we talk about those on what they call the autism spectrum, they are maybe, I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but maybe 2 to 6 times more likely to be in SGL relationships. So there's research around that. So again, that has to do with wiring as well. People experience the world and they see the world very differently. And we can draw some conclusions of why that particular population within our population may be more likely. But there's also, for me, I think that we have to throw some words of typicality in there versus divergence in the means of looking at things more on a, let's say, a more what's the term, Dr. Ball? Statistical.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Say that again. You're saying there's studies. It was taking me a while to catch up to that.
Okay.
There are studies that suggest higher rates of autism equate to higher rates of same gender loving relationships.
Not higher rates of autism, but those in that population are more likely to be in SGL relationships. Yes.
That sounds. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That sounds bizarre to me, and even I don't even know how. Anyway, I mean, just given what I understand to be the expansive range of autism, I don't know how that would even be identifiable. Or
well, they might. I would have to look at the study more, and maybe they did pick a group, maybe this high, quote unquote, high functioning or something like that. You know what I mean? So it might have been quote unquote what they used to call Asperger's, when now they call high functioning autism. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the study again thoroughly in a while, but there's been studies.
Okay.
But my point is that we are wired, and when I say wired, biologically, to experience the world in different ways. That's a matter of fact. The way that I interpret the world is through my wiring. People are more likely, getting back to your George Bush thing, I don't know what you said, they study the brain or something like that. But
no. Carl, I'm sorry, I was rushing, wasn't clear. Karl Rove was, at the time, his nickname was Bush's brain, because he was the one creating the policy that Bush and his administration and many of the Republicans would use to get themselves elected and make themselves more popular. So I was just I was saying that their argument was, by limiting and narrowing the argument to a form, to the specifics of abortion or gay rights, it was easier to get themselves elected, and they didn't even care. It was that they didn't care about those issues. And Rove and Bush, of course, but others, they were talking, and Cheney and others, they have gay family members and stuff like that, and whatever they were saying, I don't care about homosexuality as much as I care about winning. And I know that we can win by turning this and stoking this among the conservative white population, and win and have them vote against their own interests ultimately. So that's what I meant by that. So that's what I was saying. And his nickname was Bush's brain, and it's that's all.
Okay, got you. So my ultimate point is that we are constructed in different ways. And just to the point of a political point, people who are wired a certain way are even more likely to vote certain ways, to join certain political parties, to I'm saying, I'm not sure if it's causation or it might be more correlatory, but definitely there's research out that supports these things. And again, I keep saying that is both and biological and also environmental. And why do I say that? Because I think when we understand that we are constructed differently, that we can be able to give each other more grace in all the directions. Personality, for one. People don't understand their own personality. And personality is definitely biology and also environmental. So the thing is, lots of times people struggle in relationships because they don't understand. They're only looking through their optic. And when you're only looking through your optic, it's very difficult for you to see and even give compassion or grace or empathy to somebody else, because you like something wrong with them. And this is what we find to be typical in culture, on a higher level culture. People believe their culture is the culture. You know that. But on a clinical level, people find themselves as being the center of how things ought to be done. And you have to teach them that people do things differently. And people are wired differently. Everybody don't wake up with a smile on their face. Everybody's not wired that way. So people are wired very differently. And I think it's essential for us to understand that so that we can give each other more grace and space. People even react differently. Not to say we don't have to have some level of self discipline.
All right, so just as we start to, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to start to wrap up in a little bit, but can we? I want to give you more time to either finish or restate, clarify Njia and how it as an approach or a framework can inform or better inform us. And then, of course, invite folks to check out your channel and the show description for more. Yeah. Anyway.
So I'm not sure. I'm just going to go particularly just to show this particular slide here. You don't have to show it. It says here, Njia asks, I don't know, I just went down, so I'm not even sure if this answers your question really, but it looked like it did. Njia asks the same questions for every framework. Every framework. Every. What assumption does it make about human beings? What does it identify as the primary problem? What solutions does it propose? What evidence supports those solutions? What are its strengths and limitations? What unintended consequences might emerge? So again, when I started out earlier, I think I got to that slide. I'm speaking about Njia from a meta-theoretical framework. In other words, it appreciates frameworks, all frameworks. It believes that it can utilize frameworks. It doesn't have to be the core. The core for Njia will have to be from a more of a race or cultural type of lens. In our particular, like for us as Black people, like there's different people that can identify differently, but Njia at the core is about Black unity. But it's saying that we have to begin to find ways to have those dialogical conversations, and that we have to also have what some people will call radical self-acceptance. I would argue that when we develop the ability to accept ourselves and give other people just the grace to even misunderstand you, that could help us have these conversations at a much more thorough level. That takes a lot of work, but I do see it in a lot of our communities where we struggle with having conversation because we don't realize how our nervous systems are being overwhelmed. And when your nervous system is overwhelmed, it perceives threat, it hears things that never was said, and all types of things. And even it's okay to understand what is truly a threat from what is not. Because lots of times in the process of having conversations, our bodies get overwhelmed and we can't continue. And we see each other as the enemies. I think it's also essential to understand and really analyze the data, as you spoke about, the scientific research, the literature, all those things, and compare it to our theories. That's another way. It's a both and approach. It doesn't discount anything. It doesn't even discount religion. Although I'm not a religious person per se, but I understand from my standpoint, religion, they say they have their own language. For me, a lot of religions they have their epistemologies, their own language, and they draw sometimes similar conclusions, although they use different words. So to me, Njia is not an anti any type of framework. It's really at the core an African pan-African framework that makes those the primary or the foundation of everything else. I don't have much more. I mean, I won't be able to go through these slides, but any other questions, that's fine. Or we could kind of wrap it up. I don't have.
I mean, no. No. If you want it, you could go through a couple more if you want, or
let me see. Because I had like 60 something slides. I didn't know what to expect today.
Usually I admit usually I target 2 hours. And try to because then that's when I start to feel.
Yes, sir.
The fatigue and the whatever, but it's not strict, and so I'm not. I'm happy to have you. I can
feel it. I can feel it myself.
Bio break. Take a quick bio break.
No. We could end it because you can always invite me back.
That's true too.
I do find it a pleasure to be on here with you, Dr. Ball. I feel like this is my first appearance.
Well, technically, no. I mean, because technically the first one was the one where
feel like that.
Oh.
I said feel like my first appearance, other than what you did in the restaurant downstairs. Yeah, it was more about the restaurant stuff, but more than this type of thing. But yeah, I appreciate it, and I just asked us to kind of like just wrestle with some things. That's all. And I can be wrong, and that's fine. That's one of the principles of Njia. I can be wrong, and let people be wrong about you. And what let people be wrong about you means that because I work with so many people and they're so concerned about how others see them and all this type of thing. So it's a meta theoretical framework, but it also breaks down to a counseling model as well. It also has a philosophical component that is building and growing. But and the reason why I built Njia, just to let you know, is that we have a lot of frameworks that are from more of the Eurocentric gaze, if I can say, that I can't say that everything in those frameworks are not, we can't utilize those in our communities, because we absolutely can. But some of those frameworks, they need to be examined, just like CBT. CBT is a wonderful framework, cognitive behavioral therapy. It can work for you. It can benefit you on an individual level, but it also can have you feeling like your problems are a result of your own doing, and it will totally dismiss the structural, material, oppressive conditions that we find ourselves under. So again, Njia really challenges those type of models and frameworks, and I would argue that all frameworks again need to be challenged. All of us can refine our frameworks. I think if we're married to our frameworks, we miss a lot. And again, that includes African-centered frameworks, because to me, an African-centered framework is because it came from an African person. It's not to get caught historically. It's not to get caught in what this person said. It's to examine it, critique it, analyze it, and further it. And when I mean further it, as Dr. Wade Nobles and Dr. Naeem Akbar spoke about, they said we can have all of this incorrect. We can have all of this wrong. He said it's for you all, you Black psychologists who they were speaking to go out and further this. We could have all of it wrong. We could have some things right. But he says that which is wrong, throw in the ash can of history, which I think he picked up from Dr. John Henry Clark. I know you're a Dr. John Henry Clark scholar. Is that right?
I maybe was at one point,
Well, you still got it in your arsenal, even if you don't adhere to it.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, sure, for sure.
For sure. Okay. You know, I'm certain Dr. John Henry Clark got some things right, even if we don't agree with him totally. Look, I'm one of the most critical people about pseudo African Senate scholars. I will call some names that have my blood boiling, but I also think that, yeah, I mean, even those that I bring up today, that's aspects of their frameworks that I don't agree with, but I still see aspects of it that is very beneficial. I see analysis in feminism. I see an analysis. I'm talking about that is beneficial. I say that, but there's also aspect that that I would argue. And I say feminism. I'm not saying breaking it down in these different categories. I'm talking about.
But I think that's what would be. So that would be for me, selfishly, just me, of great benefit. Yeah. That if you and or anyone else wanted to engage a critique of the pitfalls of the feminism, that your criticism focus on the frame as it's evolved by Black radical or revolutionary women.
Well,
and start there. Well, so so it's the same thing. Like when it's the same thing when there's a critique of Marxism.
Yeah,
that doesn't address itself to how Africans engaged Marxism in a revolutionary way, and deployed it.
Well, I typically appreciate
that specificity, though. I think would be really, really important.
I typically critique, as you've heard me, intersectional feminism, and that because the students I work with, this is the model they're using. I can't do all of them. I also share that there's utility, even at the beginning of this particular discussion, that there's utility in feminism, in intersectional feminism. But at some point, we got to stop chopping and start looking at the whole picture a bit. That I do critique intersectionality because I've seen white women use it.
No, but that's what I'm saying though. But then there should be either no hostility or debate or whatever with revolutionary feminists.
The revolutionary feminists came to my page because I was talking about intersectional feminism.
All right, that's not how I would have seen the timeline. Because I saw the timeline. Didn't the timeline start with you in Cherie's chat? Isn't that that's not the timeline?
The topic wasn't feminist. It wasn't.
It was femicide.
It was femicide. It was a poor. It was
right. But it was a Black radical.
To be clear, that was a poor clip. And
I'm talking about the whole show. I'm talking about the whole show. What I'm saying is the timeline in your engagement with Cherie started there, right?
Where?
Or no? With you in the chat of her show talking about
that's my
femicide.
First introduction to Cherie. I wasn't critiquing feminism. I was a revolutionary feminism. I was talking about femicide.
But this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I would want you to, if you're, in other words, let me try to be, maybe I'm not being clear enough. What I'm suggesting is that you make when you're engaging with Black radical women, that your critique of whatever it is that they're doing focus on that framework, not the intersection, intersectional.
No, I didn't know Cherie. I just saw this clip. And it was femicide I was talking about. I wasn't talking about anything besides that definition. And
but it's the same, whether it's femicide or feminism. The point is there is a Black revolutionary women-led approach to each.
Well, I was just talking. I think
that has its own specific.
I get you, but what I'm saying, whether it's radical or not, if the word is being used, I'm critiquing it because what I'm saying is there has to be a measure. That methodologically is the flaw.
because if a Black revolutionary feminist framework or femicidal, if framework is developed that is separate from liberal, intersectional, white, Eurocentric,
but we
then
weren't
you but
debating.
but
we
my,
weren't
but
debating revolutionary feminism. We was
that's my point.
I wasn't even debating. I was just saying that we need to be more clear on the word when we utilize these words. That's it.
But they are. That's what I'm saying.
I'm talking about the word. That's it. It's one thing.
No. But listen to what these Black revolutionary women,
yeah,
have a specific definition and framework and approach to these terms.
Okay, I went to the definition that was provided. I wasn't debating. No, I didn't know anybody's theory there. I didn't. I was just talking about a general conversation that had been going on at that time. Had nothing to do with Cherie or nobody. It had to do with the general conversation at the time that people were saying.
Maybe my memory is messed up on this, and it's very possible. I thought it started with.
You seem to have some leanings.
Look, I admit them. Look, I'm in many ways, it's amazing that I'm even able to have this conversation, given given the life I've led. Absolutely. But what I'm trying to say is that and there it went. No, as I understood it, the timeline was Cherie is giving a presentation on her show about femicide. And you were in the chat.
No.
Okay, so then I step back. I step back, and then my timeline is off, and then that's what I'm saying. So I apologize.
I'll give you a more accurate timeline. I saw a clip, a short, and it said the definition of feminism. of femicide. It was a very short clip. In fact, I thought that I was speaking to the point of the clip, honestly, because it was like and basically, then I was in.
And then you did a video in response.
No. I went to the comment section and said, we need to be able to measure this. This is part of the reason.
Right, you were in the comments of a clip of a broader presentation.
Why? Well, I'm talking about the clip. I never was part of the chat room. We gotta be clear.
Okay, so I'm not as off as I thought. So that's my point, though. My point, though, is that whether it's my point is that what you were addressing yourself to was not the broader framework that Cherie was working with, but the
a definition. That's it. Nothing else. No frameworks. Just a definition. Besides that, that typically these type of that generally these words are overutilized, and we need to be able to measure them. That's basically it. Because my point is that when we have to. I think for us to really benefit from words like that, there has to be some specificity. And that we have to be able to, so they can have some power. Overall, the clip was pretty good. I mean, it closed out strong, but I think we have to be able to measure things. We can't just say because this, now we just say it's that. Like we have to say that some things can't qualify for everything can't qualify to use certain words. I think that we have to be real specific like that. And that might just be because, I'm thinking about psychometrics and testing and things like that. But I do think that in order to apply a label, that we have to be able to have some level of measure. That's all.
All right. So I don't remember the clip. I remember the broader discussion, and of course her presentation here recently. So I don't want to relitigate everything, but I don't think that's what she was doing. I think she was using the term femicide within the context of a Black revolutionary definition.
She wasn't doing what?
She wasn't reducing the term definition of femicide to a single data point and a number. She had it in a broader context of what Black women suffer.
Yeah, it wasn't about Cherie. It was about femicide. Again, I respond.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
if that's what I'm wanting, what I'm wanting is the critique, if there is one to be had, of what Black revolutionary women are doing with these terms, not with what everyone else is doing.
That should be done, but that wasn't the purpose of that discussion for me.
Okay, but that's what I'm requesting, because that's what I think was that's where I think there was the downfall of that discussion.
Well, no, the clip was the clip. We gotta be clear. The clip was the clip, and the clip could go viral, and people are picking up these definitions from the clip. I'm not talking. People aren't even looking at 2-hour videos. I didn't look. I looked at the video later. You know, I mean, again, I looked at the video later. After Sharice told me to look at it, and I think I even gave her kudos on the video or something like that. And then she told me, "Boy, shut up." And
I agreed with you on that. I agreed and said to her, the idiot stuff. She was
boy, shut up. And boy, I'm just saying that we have to be able to listen to everybody. Like really. And it's very difficult for men to
say that after saying I've only listened to a
no
clip.
Dr. Ball, every day you come on here and you talk about you only listen to a clip. I was only talking about what was within the context of the clip, the definition, nothing more. And I wasn't saying radical feminism. I wasn't saying nothing else.
Right. And if again, and you're right that I will respond to clips. And if there's ever some misrepresentation of what is in the broader message, fine.
But if you
I'm happy to cop to it. But what I'm moving beyond the clip. What I am asking for, because I don't think that happened, was that if there is one to be had, the critique be because you're saying, that the critique be of the Black radical approach to the framework, or that specific framework, as opposed to, again, I don't know that whatever she said in that clip was wrong in its definition of femicide.
I mean, after she provided that definition on your show last week, is the first time I saw it. That's the first time I saw it. She did not provide that. She did not, and let's be clear, she did not provide the Black radical version of feminism, femicide in that particular video either, the long form.
Then let me amend my request or add a part B to that request, that if you see Black women in a clip or elsewhere making the mistake you're saying she made in that clip, can the request be that this is what I was saying on your show, can the request be that they tap into the Black radical approaches to this, so in just in case they might fall prey to the liberal European view, honestly, as opposed to it turning into you're attacking Black, the perception being you're attacking Black men, or the perception being you're defending Black men unnecessarily, and having it descend into that.
I don't do either side of those wars. I say I don't do the I see all
but
of
that's
us.
what had it pop off in the comments.
That's not what happened. You got to read it clearly. I mean, you probably need to read the comment, because you have a leaning that is informing the way that you're interpreting.
So do you.
I'm telling you,
you absolutely. Wait. Please don't tell me that I'm the only one with a bias and a leaning. I admit I do. I'm saying so do you have a leaning.
We all have a leaning.
So we don't need to state it as though my leaning is unnecessarily informing me and your leaning is properly informing you.
Let me give you an idea what I'm saying here, Dr. Ball. What I'm saying is you continuously like kind of chopping at some things I never said.
I have not done that. I have not done that.
Let's back it up. Let's back it up then. Let's go.
I'm asking you to do something else. In addition,
I know what you just did, Dr. Ball. I'm talking about what you just did prior to this. So the thing is, I never spoke about Black. I don't want Black. Black men. they have problems as well. I mean, like they have these manosphere, these what this guy call himself, a black what do you call himself, a manicus or something, what do you call himself, and they going too far with it. They're overcorrecting. I'm saying that there's overcorrection in all directions. Now with Cherie's definition, I had no like, I could tell it. I don't think that is even the radical definition. Now the thing is, that was the definition she gave. I didn't even, I just said that this definition is just too broad. Now I never took it as a, but there are women outside of Cherie, there are men, there are children that utilize these type of definitions that are not even feminists. It was a major thing going on in our community, and it was impacting the way that it was impacting our relationships between men and women. I'm saying that the brothers on one side, the sisters on another side. And I'm saying is we have to be able to really see things in a way that doesn't turn on either side or exacerbate the traumas that we already have in certain ways that we articulate things. I'm talking about not merely that, but maybe even the more radical form. I'm not sure. I would have to see the definition. I'm not even sure if that radical form is something that I agree with. I would have to see it. So before I could say something like go to this more radical tradition, I can't just assume that I agree with that. One,
I wasn't saying you would have to agree with it.
Yeah.
I'm suggesting, that's what I'm saying. I would want your critique to be of that, of
Okay.
what is being,
I got
because people, as I understand it, people like Cherie are separating themselves from liberal, white, Eurocentric, et cetera, so forth, and saying we have a black revolutionary approach to a concern, to an issue that affects, in this case, women, but not wanting to be confused with anyone who would say our concern for how black women are treated means we would rather be in some liberal white.
That is fair.
Yeah.
That is
so
fair.
So if there's a critique of that, I would want to see you and others be critical of that.
Yeah, that
and
is
say,
fair.
I recognize she's not in that group of them over there, but I still have issues with this over here.
Yeah, I get that. I appreciate that too. I agree with that. That is fair. But now at the same time, I would appreciate, even if I could be, let your brother and sister be wrong. Like, even if I was wrong, right? I'm not talking about me because I'm not hurt, but I'm just talking about other people. I have no problem with Cherie. I see her passion, right? And that's why we've had conversations after that I suggested that she, and she ain't gotta like agree with me, but this is part of the dialogue, right? That she looks at these different frameworks and come up with her own. I said that she's a very intelligent sister. Look, she don't have to agree with none of these frameworks I'm telling her. Like, look at them, critique them, analyze them, and create your own. And she said she will. Then she came across Bandera, was it Bambara?
Tony K. Bambara, and then she's evolving a Bombarism, which I think is pretty dope. That is my particular. I agree. I appreciate that she's doing that. She and I've talked, even when she came to my live, a subsequent live, and I thought we had a pretty good engagement with her in the chat. So my goal is to, even if it's tension, that it be a part of that dialectic that we talk about, because in that we don't take things personal, because even the idiot piece is not like so hard for me. You know what I'm trying to say? But I do want us, even us, to understand that when we do these things, some people that will be
a lot too much for them, and vice versa, you know. But I think that part of our capacity to have these conversations requires us to be able to strengthen ourselves so that we can do this work.
So in many ways, I agree with, well, I'll speak for myself. I am hurt by the amount of disinvitation that I feel I've suffered over this or that political position or perspective or framework. So but at the same time, I understand why some would become defensive of certain perspectives, even for the sake of the social inclusion that comes with being seen as being a part of the same team. So it, but at the same time, I think we do have to have these, and I agree, these are difficult conversations and triggering conversations. And I think we have to be able to have them in ways that even if we disagree, that they don't end with the levels of animus and disunity that sometimes occurs. So that's why I'm saying, like, I don't have a problem. For most cases, I don't have a problem with these disagreements to the extent that they are. I do think, this is not inviting more of a conversation here on this point today, but I do think we do need some collective approach to overt political work and electoral politics. We do have to find some agreement around that before before agreement on some of these other issues, because that seems to be, I don't know, I keep wanting to say that's the easier part, but anyway.
Yeah, I think,
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I do think that, and I don't think I've always thought this way, just to be real honest with you. I wrestle with it, and I wrestle with it every day. But I do understand, and I grow to understand the essentialness of putting race, even though it's a social construct and all those type of things, as one of the primaries, so that we understand that these are things we're going to continuously wrestle with. We will, and we should, but it's a both and. We wrestle with these things, but also understand that there is a primary order in this particular place we find ourselves in, probably globally, that keeps us as oppressed, especially as Black people. And that's my argument.
I was going to joke and say, even as I am again personalized it, even when pushed out or not included in the race, I'm race first. But as I said with you on your show, but not only. And then after we get that part straight, there's some other things that have to be settled as well, particularly with class, and then some of these other issues we've talked about here today. Yeah.
But I try to use the example, and you probably don't agree with it either, but I'm arguing that to many, you and even myself, to varying degrees, are seen as oppressors through our frameworks.
So right. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
And I think that we have to really deal with all those things, because there's mythologies around our existence, or a lack of understanding from all sides. So
again, that's why I'm saying I can agree with you that so as I would understand it, it would be a liberal approach to feminism that would argue that Black men are the primary source of hostility and this, that, and the third. So I'm with you on that. Like, I don't.
And I wasn't talking about Black men at that time. I was talking about your complexion.
Oh, you meant my
your complexion, because you were talking about,
I'm sorry, being mixed. Right. Being like, yeah. Oh, I see.
And even myself, or even you even that you may have gone to school to serve your community. Like, there's too many divisions. I'm saying that go, like, the mythologies in our minds. That's what I'm really trying to deal with. I'm not So the thing is, even the fact that you, like, I hear you speaking about you yourself as a worker, as a professor, but the mythology is that you are not
part of
Yeah.
the elite class. Yeah.
And
You know,
it's not to say you don't have a cozy office, but it doesn't mean that you're not a plantation Negro.
Look,
but that's doing work inside, that you fighting from the inside.
But what I think is a funny, I was looking at the poster I made again, that of what was supposed to go on my office door. The point is, I may have, relative to some, certainly I have a cozy office. The point is, they could take it from me whatever they want, and they do. I don't have control or power over it in the way it may appear. That was more of the point. No, but again, as Cherie said, even when she was here, like I agree that, and that's why I'm saying I can recognize within the context of a Black community that I, as a cis het man of a certain stature, blah, 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 or just a man, period, can be an oppressive force, can be a hostile force, a violent and problematic force. I think that needs to be recognized. I can also recognize that as a light skin, a fair skinned biracial, what was it? A fair skinned white mom biracial, that I have privilege even within that, even as I recognize myself as part of a Black and African community. And even as I can demonstrate, I've suffered oppression as a result. But the point be, so when women within the community or the diaspora come to me and say, particularly from the perspective of revolutionary women, and say, Jared, you and yours, whether that is you and your white mom biracials or you and your men have issues, I could be like, yeah. Within that context, absolutely. And we need to be able to, address that and be honest about that.
That's true.
As long, and then I would also, and it would also be informed by my looking back at these women and saying that I recognize you're not inviting me back to some liberal white-led fantasy of a society based on your critique of my complexion and gender. So that's why I'm just saying and I'll just stop here, because is that I would want that distinction to be made, and the criticism, if any that I make, be waged against those who are offering an anti-revolutionary feminism, femicide, etc. argument. And that's it for me.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I agree with that. I think also that's not necessarily the difficult piece for many people to do in the frameworks that we find pervasive, especially in academia and different social movements. I think what we don't see is and I'm saying all that is true. All of that is true. Every last word you said, I think, if I recall what you said. But we don't see enough on how it's impacting people like you. I'm not even putting directions. I'm saying what we can do. What we can do, because it hinders the struggle, because we can't trust you. Because that one identity category in some people's frames, you become the enemy automatically. Or anything you do will be blamed on your complexion or your sexuality. I'm saying in all directions. It's an easier conversation to do the positional statements, and I think they're needed. But we also have to be able to understand and be able to differentiate between those who are truly a threat from those who are not. And it takes a more expansive lens. I'll stop it there.
All right, my man. Thank you, Dr. Dennis Ausar Winkler, Dr. Daw, link to channels in the show description. And I appreciate you coming through and sharing this and having this discussion. And thanks to all those in the chat who I'm sure were highly principled and undefeated as always, as I'm sure will be the comment section once we wrap. Can only look forward to it. And beyond that, go walk the dogs and represent Woo. Peace, Dr. Daw, to you,
Thanks for having me.
to everybody in the chat, everybody out there in the world, only because I know you're willing to fight for it, as Fred Hampton used to say. And as always, let's be reminded of what is most important beyond all of this.
And we should support black businesses. We got to support black. You know, my buddy Jared Ball, Dr. Ball, who is at Morgan State, talks about this myth of black buying power. Another brother who teaches at Duke University, Sandy Darity, says, you know, we can't pool our money together and get using that, buy our way out of oppression.
Right.
This is
Never buy your way out.
You can't buy your way out. We can't create enough millionaires in a capitalist society. It just,
And what did you sacrifice? Calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago for which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight, they set me on a path from which there's no escape. I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I look down, there's no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. Now, the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything, 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 everything.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.